Hello, my name is Mundia Stead, and today I am going to talk about the benefits of reading. One of the first things we're taught in school is how to read. For most of us, our first reading encounter occurs even before we know how to talk, with our parents reading to us as infants. Reading is such an important part of modern living that it encompasses almost everything we do every day. We initially learn how to read for educational purposes, and it's literally impossible to become a successful student if you don't know how to read. The books we read for academic purposes help us better understand whatever it is we're learning in school at the time. Reading can also be a source of pleasure and leisure. So while we first learn how to read for educational purposes, reading can also be a very enjoyable and enriching hobby. So as we get older and become better readers, some of us continue to read not for educational purposes, but because we enjoy it so much and we learn so much from reading. From as far as I can remember, I've always been an avid reader, and one of my fondest and earliest memories is of listening to my kindergarten teacher reading to our class. Other than educational purposes, the other benefits of reading include increased communication skills, source of general knowledge, mental health benefits, and it's good for the whole family. So let's talk about how reading helps us communicate better. Reading can indeed improve an individual's communication skills. In a research paper titled What Reading Does for the Mind, Anne Cunningham of the University of California at Berkeley and Keith Stanovich of the Toronto, Ontario Institute of Studies in Education look at the consequences of reading. One consequence of reading that the study talks about is enriched vocabulary. The more you read, the better your vocabulary becomes, because you learn so many new words when you read books. Having a rich vocabulary helps one communicate with others much better. Academically, reading helps us become better spellers too. The more you read, the more you become acquainted with word structures. Furthermore, if you already have a love for reading, it's so much easier to study for whatever subject you're taking in school. The Cunningham-Stanovich study shows how reading volume has an effect on spelling, vocabulary, intelligence, and general knowledge. They found that even when performance is statistically equated to reading, comprehension, and general ability, reading volumes is still a very powerful predictor of vocabulary and knowledge differences. As a result, the study came up with this table, which shows how an increased percentage of readers learn more words each year than those who read very little. The 2% who spent 0 minutes reading each year learned much less words than those who spent more time reading. So now that we've established how reading helps us communicate better, we can now look at how reading leads to an increase in general knowledge. Acquiring general knowledge is indeed another benefit of reading. This happens mostly when we read non-fiction books that may be about historical facts or geography, politics, current affairs, or even how-to books, which teach us how to do all sorts of different things. I can speak from experience when I say that I learned how to code in HTML by reading on my own and conducting research on the internet. I've also learned about many foreign cultures and their history by reading. I now find that when I meet people from different places for the first time, it's so easy to find common things to talk about because of the general knowledge I have acquired through reading all sorts of books. So not only does reading make us smarter, it's also good for our mental health too. Reading improves our mental health in more than one way. In an article titled Reasons to Read, the Calgary Herald contends that when some people feel overwhelmed and disempowered by life, reading can teach them skills that help them solve these problems and also help them explore life. Also, sometimes after a long, hard, and stressful day, It's just so good to get home and read a good fictional book, and you get lost in the book and you forget all about your problems and stress and whatever it is that's going on in your life. And as I earlier mentioned reading is also good for our family life. Anybody who's ever read for an infant or a toddler can tell you how most children are calmed and soothed by the voice of an adult reading to them, even if they don't understand a single word that that adult is talking about. Children's books such as these have such colorful pictures that even though the children don't understand what you're saying, just the sound of your voice and looking at these attractive, colorful pictures is enough to entice the children and interest them. It arouses their curiosity, and that builds a good foundation from which the children can develop their later love for reading. Marilyn Lopes of the University of Massachusetts says that parents are their children's first and most important teachers, and as such, they are best equipped to teach their children good reading habits. So, it's up to us as parents or caregivers to start early in teaching our children the love for books and the love for reading. Reading to your child also helps retain and build stronger bonds with them. According to earlymoments.com, snuggling up with a book lets the two of you, the parent and the child, slow down and recapture the sweet, cuddly time that was enjoyed when that child was a baby. So in conclusion, I'd like to state that these are just some of the benefits that reading offers to us. And I know for a fact that all of us are reading for school since we're in college. But if we're not already reading for pleasure or leisure, we should seriously consider taking up reading as a hobby. Because, it doesn't cost much. It's a hobby that's cheap. If you want to read a book and you can't afford one, you can easily go to the library, a public library, where you don't have to pay for anything. So you're doing something you enjoy and you don't have to pay for it. If, on the other hand, you'd like to own the books that you read, you can just as easily find an online secondhand bookstore, even a brick-and-mortar used bookstore, and get secondhand books there for just as cheaply. So I hope we all get to read for leisure and pleasure and not just for academic purposes. Thank you.